All right, we are all set, Ethel.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see everybody after the summer break. And why don't we start the meeting now? Introductions. Katie, we have some new people here, one new person anyway.
Sure. So I can call on folks because I know everybody's Zoom screen's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I'm Katie Bell, she, her, hers. I'm the youth services supervisor for the town of Mansfield. And then I will throw it over to Sarah, who is in the office next to me.
Hello, Sarah Dufresne, early childhood services coordinator, and so excited to say MSW intern for this year. I'm pretty pumped about it. So, yep, and I've met Ashley several times, and it's good to see all your faces again. Hi, Ethel.
Sure.
All right. Oh, and Pat just signed on, so we'll finish up with staff. Pat, we're just doing introductions.
Okay. Well,
Hi, I'm sorry. I thought
no,
you were
go
gonna-
ahead, Pat.
I'm Pat Schneider. I'm the Director of Human Services for the town. So I oversee social, senior, and youth services.
All right. And I'm Ethel Manzares, and I'm chair of the Youth Services Bureau.
And then
Deb?
we'll throw it over to Deborah. You're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Deborah Hultgren. I'm a community member to the advisory board.
Okay, Laura, you're up.
I'm Laura Wright, and I have been a user of the Youth Services Bureau services, though my children are both now at the high school.
That still qualifies you now because we service the high school.
Yeah. All right, Henry, you're up.
Hello, I'm Henry. That was the bell for next period, and I'm a student at EO Smith.
Hey, Henry.
Great to have you, Henry. Larry, you're up.
Hi, Larry Barlow, principal of Mansfield Middle School.
And Lisa.
Hey, Lisa Gerard from Favor. I'm our family systems manager, and I cover the part of Mansfield.
Great. And then Ashley, we have joining us today. She's going to be taking over the law enforcement officer position that we have in our set of slots. And so Sergeant Merrill's going to kind of tick all his boxes with Ryan to make it official. So Ashley today is joining us as a technically prospective member, but it is going to be Ashley, and we're really excited to have her. So Ashley, do you want to say a little bit about yourself and the work that you've already been doing with?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yep. So I am the Mansfield resident trooper. I'll be working with the community and with the schools. The town had created a new position that I was appointed to and honored to fill. So I'll be working with the schools. I'll be handling most of the calls for the schools, especially EO Smith, with any instances that they have. And I'm also happy to be on this board. I'd like to really contribute what I can to the community and to the students.
Welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right. We need to approve minutes from the meeting of May 10th and June 14th. Have you all had a chance to look at those minutes? Are there any additions or corrections or anything to be made? If not, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance of both minutes, both dates. So can I have a motion that we accept?
So moved.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. All righty, reports. How about you, Katie? The youth services report.
I am muted. Do we need to officially vote? We have the motion to accept in a second. Do we need to do
right,
a
I'm
vote?
sorry. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye. Or
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Thanks, Katie.
Excellent. All right. So updates from youth services. We had A very busy summer since we saw you last. I think the last time we had met, we didn't officially have a quorum. So then I will officially report to our quorum today that our June 10th Celebrate Pride event was amazing. It was very well attended. We had about 200 folks there. We can't wait until next year. And it was a great kind of kickoff to a very busy summer. So our summer programs are definitely in full swing. Sarah was out in the world like every day of the week across the different programs. So Sarah and Amani ran the Mansfield Mustangs program, which is formerly a collaborative program between us and Parks and Recreation for middle school aged kids doing public service learning. But we kind of took it on to be one of our core components and took it off the community center's plate last year. So it was a fully YSB summer number 2 for Mansfield Mustangs. And Sarah, you want to share any highlights from that?
Yeah, I want to highlight Henry. So Henry is literally our volunteer of the year. I keep trying to like argue that we need to get him a special parking space here at town hall because he's here so much. He helped us with the Mustangs over the summer and our new program, which is the Covenant Soup Kitchen Volunteer Program, which I'll elaborate on. But Henry has completed to date probably over 80 volunteer hours with us here in youth services. He's always receptive. He's always helpful. And he's awesome. So thank you, Henry. I want to put that out there because I really appreciate you. I mean, that's not even including the hours you put in here as the advisory board. So thank you. So Mustangs was, again, a very popular program this year. It always is. We were able to go to, I want to say, 8 local organizations, nonprofits, and we donated our time there. It was awesome. We had such a good crew of kids. It's one of my favorite groups that we do. The businesses are always so thankful that we go there to help them. We did things such as painting, we cleaned bird poop off of boxes, and we shoveled cow poop out of cow pens. But for some reason, these kids come back and they love it and they want to come back, which is really awesome. And we always have a wait list for that program. So that's really cool. The other thing we did this year is I reached out to the high school and I tried to kind of start filling in that gap because we don't service a lot of high school kids. And I created a volunteer program at the soup kitchen so that kids in National Honor Society or anybody else could get volunteer hours. And we were capped at, I want to say 13 kids, and we filled up in about 5 days with all 13 kids. And we went to the soup kitchen every Friday. We got there around 9:45 in the morning and we busted our butts. I think one day we unloaded 14 tons of food off of a semi trailer.
Wow.
That was all donated foods. Yeah, it was incredible. And I say I love all my groups, but that was by far one of the best groups of kids I've ever worked with. These kids were a caliber of kids that you just don't come in contact with every day. They wanted to work. They all showed up eager to work. They all got along. Nobody had to repeat directions. They all were just like, we got this, we're working, we're doing it. And I really think that people at the soup kitchen cried when it was our last day. They were like, why can't you come back? So it was a really neat program that I know we can definitely do in the future. It was very successful. And it was a really neat way to kind of reach out to staff at EO Smith and to the guidance staff there and say, hey, if you have these kids that need these hours, send us their information. And it was great. It really, really worked out awesome. So I'm happy that stuff like that can continue in the future.
Good. Well, sounds like you got a lot done. And the kids got a lot done. That's really good. Great.
And then we did run our goal program this summer as well, which is the Great Outdoor Adventure Learning Program. That was a lot smaller of a program this year than it has been. In previous years, we really struggled with recruitment and kind of getting those 8th graders emerging into 9th graders on board, but also with some tighter timelines for that recruitment than we've had in years past. There were a lot of our outside vendors that we had to kind of wait on to hear back from, a lot of uncertainty about ropes courses being open and things like that. So we didn't have quite as much time as we would usually like. So we're hoping to be able to start that recruitment process a little bit earlier next summer. We also were running into challenges where typically we will run Mustangs offset on the days of goal, so kids could participate in both, and potentially have, 3-hour or 3 days a week of programming through us. But because of challenges with transportation this year and sharing the vans with Parks and Rec, we couldn't do that. We only had access to the vans on the overlapping days to be able to do it. So typically we would run goal on like the Tuesday or the Thursday, offset from Mustangs, but the vans weren't available then because they needed them for Camp Mansfield. So we are hoping that when we eventually get our van, that will also help with being able to recruit and being able to have those kids who are overlapping programs, and realistically being able to potentially do 4 days of programming with us if they're doing Mustangs, doing goal, and doing a Covenant soup kitchen hours and things like that, and really being able to offer some good opportunities for our kids. So those were our summer programming things. We also, Sarah was a part of the Downtown Partnership Moonlight Movies with arts and crafts like she always is. And they always have a blast and look forward to having her there. We did a couple, Kelly hosted a few craft nights at the senior center for middle school age kids to just kind of have programming throughout the summer months. We did attempt to do a community cookbook project, but really did not get a ton of volunteer chefs from the community. So we did put a pin in that, and we'll kind of see where that ends up. I know there's some other departments in town who are interested in kind of picking that up and running with it. So we'll kind of support them where we can. But the biggest news of youth services from the summer is that we are very down staff to be starting a very busy time of the school year. So everyone got to meet Amani at the end of last year. She was amazing. She was wonderful to have this summer, and she accepted a new position at the Vinyl Technical School, an offer that like it's irrefusable. And we wish her all the best. We are definitely hurting to lose her. She brought a lot to the table here as a team member, as being an expansion of things that we didn't already have in house. And she fit right in. She was a great person to work with. So we are definitely feeling that absence right now, and all wearing a lot of different hats and kind of trying our best to make sure that the biggest programs that we have are still going to be able to happen this year as we had planned them. So we are in the process of recruiting for our COPE program, as well as our Big Friends program, as well as our X-Block checking groups. And we've all been kind of dividing and conquering the best we can with those programs that are more typically spearheaded by the vacant position right now. And we're kind of doing that all in the midst of the big transitions of the Mansfield Board of Education school systems and things like that. So the way that we have been able to collaborate with the Office of Community Outreach to make COPE and Big Friends happen with the split campuses at the elementary school is we are doing we've only planned a semester. We haven't planned beyond it, just kind of waiting to see what happens with the timing of the opening of Mansfield Elementary School, one campus. But for this semester, we are serving the first graders at Vinton for both their recess and their lunchtime to kind of welcome them into the school, welcome them into being first graders, and kind of that it is a big transition from kindergarten to first grade. So they'll be getting COPE for the first semester there. And then at the Goodwin campus, we are servicing the second and third graders only during lunch. Their recesses didn't line up. So the volunteers are working with second graders for their lunch wave and then third graders for their lunch wave, which kind of models the way COPE used to be run before the pandemic. And we had experimented with the recess part last year with cohorting. So we've got kind of this very hybrid model of COPE for our different elementary school kids, but anything that we can do in a really kind of big transition time for everybody, we're happy to make happen. We went to the UConn Office of Community Outreach's recruitment fair, their involvement fair, and helped them get a lot of really great numbers for our volunteers. So our volunteer numbers are looking really healthy for this year, which is good, because it was something that we struggled with last year in that volunteer recruitment. So we're happy for that. Ethel.
I just wondering, do you have any other interns other than Sarah this year?
We do. Yes, our other intern who is helping us with X Block, and she's going to be running that X Block program, is Kelly's intern. Her name is Sophia. She's a BSW intern from Eastern Connecticut State University. So she's in her senior year, and she'll be seeing kids here in the outpatient office. She'll be running X Block. She's going to be doing a social skills group with Kelly at, I believe, the Goodwin campus to start with. She is also going to be helping do some support work through the diversion circles and some case management. And then Kelly and she are in the process of recruiting to try to bring mother-daughter circle back for this coming year. And she would co-facilitate that with Kelly. If they are not able to kind of get enough recruitment, then she would have some potential additional availability for outpatient individual services. So we'll be doing that recruitment process in the next few weeks, especially at open house, to see kind of what the rest of our Thursdays look like.
Would you tell the new person, who Kelly is? And
Oh, yes. So Ashley Kelly, you might have already met her through the JRB circles.
Yeah, they met last week. Yeah, they're good. Ashley,
Kelly is one of
Ashley's
ours.
been awesome. She has been present in so many things, and she's really just putting herself out there to be involved in our department, which was kind of the idea of having this trooper come on with admin hours. So she'll kind of be the face that partners with us for a lot of things, which is awesome. So we've done a lot of things with her, which is really cool, but she got a chance to meet Kelly last week.
okay.
And then next time we have a Mansfield case, you'll get to meet Sophia when she's there at JRB time. So Sophia just started with us last week. So she is still in her orientation and getting used to all things being a YSB intern, getting thrown in at the busiest time of the year while we're down staff making it even busier. But she's been a welcome addition to the office so far, and we're looking forward to it. And then so for our Big Friends program, that is running the way we started it last year. So that's still going to be on Tuesday afternoons at the middle school, utilizing the late bus system so that our kids can participate without necessarily needing to arrange transportation. So we're in the process of recruiting for that as well. And we're inviting everyone who was with us in Big Friends last year, as well as our emerging fifth graders who, because they didn't have COPE last year, but had Grub Club with us, we're inviting. So I have a stack of envelopes that I'm going to be coming over, Larry, in a little bit to go stuff in all of the homerooms. Kelly Young is amazing and been really helpful in helping keep us on track and organized with who's where in the startup for the school year. So that is what we are kind of working with to get everything up, running and going. Because we are down staff, we are not as present in the middle school yet as we were anticipating to be when they added the new position. But we do still have Kelly there 2 days a week. She's there for the full day on Tuesdays and Fridays. And Sarah is doing her internship hours on Wednesdays with her crew of MMS students. So we're really lucky to have Sarah in her MSW internship role this year as well. It's an amazing help to being down because she always does everything anyway, but now she gets school credit for it. So we like that.
Does anybody have any questions of Katie? All right, moving on.
Oh, I have one more thing. Of course. We are still running My Pride. So My Pride is still going to happen on second and fourth Mondays at MMS the way that it did last year. We are putting a pause on My Voice just because we don't have the staffing capacity realistically to kind of make it happen right now during the school startup. And we had been hoping to hear from CRAC that we had a little bit more flexibility in how the local prevention council dollars were going to be spent. But we have been told by the state that there is no flexibility this year. It is vaping prevention only, which is hard because our kids that we have been working with in the My Voice program are really kind of burnt out on dealing with vaping prevention. We were lucky enough last year that the state said because we had already done so much on vaping prevention, we could include other substance use prevention where we were able to address cannabis youth prevention. as well as being able to use the LPC funding towards some of the My Pride interventions for resiliency building and mental health factors in vulnerable populations. But this year, the LPC grant money is only vaping. So we're kind of figuring out how we want to apply for that money, what our deliverables make the most sense to do, knowing that my voice is a little bit of a struggle with the ongoing kind of dragging out of vaping prevention. And Laura, I see your hand.
Thank you. Pat, you're next on the agenda.
Oh, I think Laura had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Look, I didn't
So
see
the best part about Big Friends when my kids were active in it was the parent support group. Is that coming back ever?
So right now we are having Kelly kind of do the mother-daughter circle. We've found it really challenging to find a time where parents are able to get together, where transportation doesn't become a barrier. It's something that is worth exploring, especially once we become better staffed and, looking at what is the need and what is the want, particularly if parents are wanting to meet in person versus if they're wanting to meet virtually, and kind of figuring out what best serves the needs of families as a whole. What we are finding with Big Friends when we moved it to the middle school is we were able to get a lot more consistent participation from the youth, because we didn't have that barrier of transportation, of parents being able to kind of scramble at dinner time to come bring their kids and then get home late at night. So by using the late buses, we had a lot more consistent youth participation than we were able to have when we were kind of hosted here in the building and kind of often getting kicked out of council chambers for other meetings and things like that. So it's unfortunately that we do lose that captive audience of the parent group, but we're always looking for how do we serve the need and what does it look like and what do parents want.
Lisa, you had a question?
It's more in reference to Laura and Katie, the parent support group. That's my wheelhouse, one of them, and getting funding for those. For groups and getting facilitators to be paid. So if there is a parent that might be interested in starting something like that, you can reach out to me and we can kind of work it out. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Ashley.
So I wanted to follow up with what Katie said. I failed to mention in the beginning with my introduction that I'm also a DARE officer. Okay, so I will be a DARE officer in the middle schools for 5th graders. I have to work with the teachers and principal and see, when exactly I'll be starting, but I will be incorporating the drugs and alcohol and things like that based on the curriculum. So that'll give a little bit more light to the vaping and things like that as well.
Great. Sounds good. It sounds like you get a lot of support there, Katie, with the schools and the police. That's great. All right.
We're definitely feeling very supported right now during a really challenging time, which is nice. And we're hoping that we're also being supportive to the schools during their different challenges, because it's been a weird start, and that's truth, and we just acknowledge it, and we're all just doing the best we can in unexpected circumstances.
Yeah, it's going to get better. So we hope anyway. Pat, do you want to do your report?
Hi, yeah. So since we were talking a little bit about staffing, I'm going to give you some updates. I will say those 2 positions in youth services, they began an internal recruitment, which is required because they're union positions, yesterday. And then we will begin an external. We will be recruiting for both positions at the same time. So hopefully we'll get 2 great candidates. We had some great candidates last time. So I'm kind of hoping some of them reapply because it was a hard decision toward the end. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to find 2 really good youth service social workers. And again, we can, move things along. Just to let you know, we've had a lot of transition in our department. I'm happy to have Kathy Carmelo in as our new administrative specialist. She comes from facilities, so she already knows the town system, and she is just great. She's stepped right in and has been really helpful. And of course, it's good to have Dorothy still here, but she's in a different role to kind of help, because our department is very different than facilities is in a lot of ways. So we're glad to have that position filled. Sharon Karen, our 17 and a plus year cook in the kitchen at the senior center, has left, and they're working on, we had restructured that job before she left to be a nutrition coordinator. So we'll be recruiting for that position. That position's 30 hours. And we also have our adult service social worker, which is still vacant. That situation should be resolved fairly soon though. And hopefully we'll have someone on board. Of course, that's critical to all age groups, including families, because they do, the case management, and currently that's falling on my shoulders. So I am kind of doing lots of different things, which is fine for me, but it certainly will be better suited for the community when that position is filled. And we're also recruiting for a part-time food service assistant, 19 hours a week over at the senior center, and a part-time van driver. These positions are both funded through the ARPA funds for expansion of our transportation and our nutrition services. And again, we have I've begun to work with the town manager on the succession planning. Hopefully my position, they're looking at the job description and updating that, because of course, lots of things have changed in the 9+ years I've been here. So, and hopefully that will be going out so we can have a nice smooth transition between when I leave and the new person comes in at the end of the year. So that's what's going on from an HR position. Complicating all of this is that our HR director has, Holly Schaefer, has also put in her resignation. She is going to be leaving at the beginning of October. And one of the workers, that David, who had been here, had been doing a lot of the work on the recruitments, also resigned. He relocated to the West Coast with his partner. So, and there are other positions open throughout the town. So, but we're happy that ours are being recruited. They are being prioritized. If any of you watched the council meeting last night, there was somebody who came forward who talked about, the challenges with there being so many positions open in human services. That was unsolicited. I'm not even sure where that came from, but the council really, has heard that. So I'm, happy to see that those things are moving along. From a social service perspective, just to let you know, youth services also helped out over the summer with Kathy Ann's transition and leave. So they did some case management over the summer before Amani left, particularly with our RARE program. That is ARPA funds to help people with their arrearages in rent, utilities, so they've got some firsthand experience with some of those challenges. That program, we've had 8 applications to so far. 3 have been granted. A couple are still on hold, and then some, one person withdrew and a couple of people were not eligible. So that keeps going on. Farms to Families, that great program, had its last distribution on September 6th. We also are, have partnered with Willimantic and Click and some other programs to do a new program that will go through the winter, that will help people, both local farmers and people to get kind of farm to table items throughout for the next 18 months. So we're pleased to be moving into that. And we had a very successful program with Back to School. We helped 37 households with 96 school-age children with gift certificates to help them buy school supplies and clothing. We also are gearing up for our holidays program. So even being short-staffed, things just keep going on here.
Pat,
So, yep.
Speaking of being short-staffed and youth services, can you reach out to the people you interviewed prior and see
We
if,
cannot. I had actually asked, knowing that the one position was most likely going to come up, I had asked if we could develop an eligibility list because we had such good candidates.
right,
And I got the answer no. So
Okay.
so we weren't able to do that, which is unfortunate because we had two really good candidates that we would have offered both jobs to.
did they say
So,
why you couldn't do that?
Pardon?
Did they say why you can't do that?
No.
Okay,
No, we didn't, other than that it's not town policy, but I remember doing it in the past here, so I'm not really sure.
okay,
If that's a change in policy, that could have happened. I mean, under Maria, I was able to do it one time when I had a quick turnover, similar kind of thing where a person had applied for two jobs, took ours, was here for a week and got offered something else. So I was able to, she had an eligibility list, but I guess at this point, maybe the person after Maria had changed the policies so that can't be done. But I hope that's something they bring back, particularly in this work environment where this is happening all over the place,
Mhm.
where people are, I hate to say it, taking jobs and not showing up the first day, or getting a better offer from somewhere else. I mean, if you interview, I just sat on an interview panel where there were 5 people that were supposed to come, and it was a very professional position, and only 3 people showed up for the interviews. So, it's just a different world out there right now in a recruitment. And so what you have to do, our jobs are great. I think these other 2 people would be in them, and we would have, we would still have them. But there's just a lot of competition out there right now.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
so yeah, so hopefully I can talk them into it this time, because, if we get some really good backup, and it's not some formalized policy, I'm really hoping we can do an eligibility list.
Okay, great, thanks.
So,
Is there anything else you have for us?
not unless you have any questions. I mean, Ethel, you could certainly talk if you want to, updating people on what's happening with the agency grants program, because you've been real involved with that, through Human Service Advisory, but.
Yeah, I could do that real quick. We have apparently, the town has $350,000 through the COVID funding from the feds.
ARPA, yeah.
ARPA. And the committee has been putting together a RFP and a scoring sheet. One of the problems that we may have is that if we grant somebody their request, it's only a one-time shot. You can only do it, you get the money once out of this particular pocket of money. And so you have to be able to sustain whatever program you're proposing to do. So that may be an issue, but the committee has been working on it, and we have a scoring sheet. We're meeting again this week, I think, to finish it up. And so we'll have some for the town council to approve, and then we can advertise and see what we get. And we're prioritizing food insecurity, housing, and mental health. Those are our 3 priorities. So community programs will have an opportunity to apply for a grant, a one-time grant, as long as they can sustain it further on. In other words, if they want to hire somebody and we give them a grant for the first year, they're going to have to be able to come up with a plan to be able to maintain that person and show us their plan before we give them the money. So stuff like that.
These are open to 501(c)(3) agencies who serve Mansfield residents. And it can also be capital, which sometimes one time works better for capital requests.
Yeah.
So,
and it can be just as simple as needing a new refrigerator or a new, desk or something, whatever, you may need. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. And it's going to revamp the whole grant procedure through the town, even after this money is spent. I think when we have other monies to spend, we're going to probably use the same process that we're setting up, and it'll be a much more formal process. And I think it might work out. I think it might be better all the way around. But that's
right. And they have actually already changed the, you guys have done great work changing the agency grants that happen through the budgeting process to a different format. So they've been working, that committee's been working very hard.
And hopefully, next time around, when they do the agency grants, the town council will tell us how much money we have the grant so that we can make it realistic, proposals, or, we can tell people what we have for money and this is what how much money we can grant. And, before the town would just say, oh, run these grants through and people would apply and they'd ask for all kinds of money. And we didn't know how much money we had to spend. But now hopefully in the future we will. So it should make things easier. So anyway, that's what we're doing in Human Services Committee. Hopefully things will work out. Does anybody else have any questions or anything like that? Okay, under old business, we have sector reports. Anybody have anything on the old business? There being none, how about new business?
I can raise new business to get some feedback from you guys. So I've already kind of mentioned the local prevention council grant this year is focused purely on vaping, and we do not have flexibility with it this year. That grant's for, I think, $5,342, but I might be flip-flopping the 3 and the 4. So I wanted to spend some time today getting feedback from you all about any other ideas that you might have that would be effective messaging on youth vaping prevention. We have a brainstorming session with other LPCs next week, but anything that you guys have for our very local needs that you've seen either in your work in police, in your work in the schools, being a student or an administrator, in what you're hearing from families, but just kind of what folks hear, because this is the local prevention council for Mansfield, what you might like to see done with that grant money while we are working on our application for it.
It's specifically for prevention, not for like harm reduction or helping with replacement behaviors or anything like that, correct?
It is prevention, not treatment, is the way that it's framed, because you could promote resilience and replacement behaviors that isn't treatment, and that would be allowable under the grant. Deb, I saw your hand.
Yeah, have you approached the high school at all? Because I'm not aware of vaping, anti-vaping activities other than discipline going on at the high school. And it just seems to me that the creativity of high school students is really high up there. I mean, I don't know if the money's restricted to a certain age group or not, but I would approach the high school, the social workers up there, and talk to them about whether or not there's potential there, because the vaping is a huge issue at the high school. It's huge. And I hear about it from my senior who's at the high school. And I think that there's plenty of work to be done there, even though it may have exhausted itself at the middle school.
Anybody else have anything?
Definitely reach out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what specific tasks or activities to suggest to do. I enjoyed looking at the commercials that the kids made last year.
Yeah,
that was nice. And having an event at the end, the conclusion of that work from the middle school. So yeah, just maybe there's a way to get at families too. I don't have the idea. I'm just thinking. And that's, helping families identify when students are engaged, or when their kids are engaging in that behavior, and what to do, like what are the steps they can take to help support that. That don't necessarily mean they're going to get in trouble, right? So people make mistakes, we try to figure it out. So I don't know. I'm just brainstorming on like focus groups more than what you can actually do. So.
To Larry's point, you took the words out of my mouth. What I'm hearing from families in the community is like more, they know that vaping is happening. They don't always know what to look for, and what kids are creating to hide their vaping supplies. I was with a few parents that did kind of a non-traditional hidden in sight, plain sight, but it was more like a backpack. And even from me being a parent, there were things that he showed, like in a deodorant, like the kids had crafted to hide their vaping, that I was like, I was like, oh my God, I have kids that age. But families in the community, I have 3 families that have come to me asking for something similar of more what to look for past the like traditional hidden in plain sight with like the new, I don't really say it's new, but like creative ways that kids are hiding it. So that's something I've heard from the families in the community.
Okay. That, I mean, we ran a hidden in plain sight like virtually a year or 2 ago, but we had been able to get funding for it under this grant before, so we could definitely bring that back into the community with that focus on vaping, and we would be able to even do it in person now, and that might bring a bigger crowd than we had at the virtual one. So thank you, Lisa, for that reminder. Ashley.
So I just wanted to share, I have been informed of the huge vaping crisis that we have at the high school. I have talked to the principal, vice principals on the act of responding to it. So what my intentions are to walk through the hallways and walk into these bathrooms at the times that people are there. Unfortunately, like you said, stopping them from doing it or punishing or whatever isn't going to stop them from doing it. They're going to go out and do it again. I think the main, what's important is to figure out why they're doing it. Because as long as vaping's cool, you know, you're fighting against that. So until something else comes around, just like smoking cigarettes, right? So I feel like some of that, if there's any other ways, like you had suggested, to use the funding to just kind of, I think it needs to be more personal. I think it's more of a, each individual is choosing to, because there's a lot of people that don't vape. There's students that can't go into the bathrooms because they don't want to be pressured into it. They don't want to breathe it in, you know, and it's not fair to them. So that's why I want to step into those restrooms and assist with that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to trying to convince them that it's not worth it, that it's not good for you, and figure out why they're choosing to vape. And I'm not even sure where to begin with that. I'm sure that's something that you guys can figure out, but I'm willing to help out as much as I can for that. Absolutely.
Laura, you had something?
I just, so first of all, start in the math wing, according to my kids. And one of the things that I've been finding is just talking about it instead of making it a punishment thing.
Mhm.
At least with my kid and her boyfriend, they don't take it to school, but they have pipes. And I'm just not I'm not going to be able to stop them. So I would rather know. And so I want them to be honest about it. And that has seemed to them more reasonable than a ban. And it's reduced the incidents from what I can tell around my house. Just to get them talking about it whenever they're doing it, and to talk about other people doing it at school. Definitely start in the math one.
So the goal would be to address it. That's my intention, not just take it away and you're just a name, you're just a, you know, it's more of, we're going to actually address this and talk about it in more of a mentor type capacity versus just a punishment, just so you know. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that, Lisa, you just wrote that. Has anyone asked these kids? I always go for the mean girls moments. Can we get all these kids into an auditorium and ask them these questions and make it so it's not punitive, and that it's really just built on the responses of these kids, and you don't know who's saying it, but you're asking the question, you're doing like a participation more or less of like, why do you do it? Why do your friends think you do it? And then we're getting those answers. So I think there's some room to do that. And I think it is important.
Deb, you had something?
No.
Okay.
I can put your hand down. And then Laura, do you want me to lower your hand too? Okay.
And I just add, sorry, to Sarah's point, sorry, Katie, I should raise my hand and not be rude. I apologize. With doing in the auditorium, my only hesitancy is that school providers and teachers and administration are going to be present, and kids aren't going to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, you already know that, but
yeah, no, I just say auditorium because I picture like the mean girls moment, but like, to me, I think those types of conversations are so important to have, and whether it happens after school at Dunkin' Donuts or I mean, anywhere it could happen in the community. But I think that those are really where you get the most honest feedback from kids. I mean, going back to what you just said, Laura, you know, I have a teenager and I take those times to exactly like you said, talk to him and be honest. And I get so much feedback, especially with his friends. I know Henry and I have had conversations about this in the car, and it, you know, those are the times that the kids are really candid and they will tell you the truth because there's not that fear of being punished. And I think those are the kind of conversations where we'll get the answers that I think you're looking for, is more or less of the why. Why is it so readily available? Why is it cool? Like, what makes it cool? You know, I was a teen smoker and I look back and I'm like, why was that cool? That's disgusting. If I knew any of the things that it did now, like, why did I do that? So I think the opportunity to get through is there. I think we just need to, like you said, do the research as to the why.
Yeah, and
So-
Vapor can do that technical assistance of having those smaller groups and get back a report back to the YSB and to the YSAB and to like even administration anonymously of kind of what they're saying. So if that's something you guys want to pursue at some point, just let me know, and that's something that we can work together on.
I can definitely ask that when I reach out to the high school to see if that's something they're open to us doing, whether, you know, it's an after school session or during lunch times or anything like that, to just invite youth to come and tell us about things. I also know the Peer Natural Helpers group might be a really good resource to kind of get some feedback and info from, is it Miss Cartier who's running it still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I also want to recognize that we have a youth here with us, and Henry, if there's anything that is kind of circulating in your mind and thinking about vaping prevention and any of the things that you've heard folks share why they do it, or, you know, where they're getting it, or why they don't want to stop, or what they're worried about happening if they ask for help to stop.
Ashley, you had something else?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention too, with the topic of asking them and trying to get anonymous feedback. So one of the things that we do in DARE with the parents is it's like a digital survey system where you use your phones, you're anonymous, you know, it's pretty cool. All this stuff pops up on the big screen. It could be something that we can consider utilizing something like that so that we can get some responses anonymously, yet they'd be, you know, they would want to do it because it's social related and they can use their phones and it's actually kind of fun. So that would be a great resource to use. I can look into that as well.
Good. Well, sounds good,
That's
everybody.
If you kind of can send me any info that you have on that, because if it has a price tag, I get grant money. But I do want to see with Henry, if there's anything that, you know, is coming to mind that you'd like to share, because I love getting to hear from you when you're here with us. You are the resident expert on being a youth. We are all very far removed from it.
Yeah, so first of all, you're all right. It is an issue, and we do need to do our best to try to stop it. I think the sooner we can start work, the better. Is because, you know, as time goes on, more people will start to use it, and I think the quicker we can be, the better results we will have. And also, unfortunately, I don't know answers to the questions of like why. I wish I could help more, but I just can't.
And you better not know the where, Henry.
I don't know that either. No.
That's right.
He can know the where, so he knows where not to go.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else?
Well, I think, you know, that the challenge with it, I mean, is I think sometimes people think it's just a look cool thing, but it actually is an addiction. I mean, you know, maybe it's the look cool in the beginning, but it is one of the toughest things to quit doing once you've established that. So prevention is good, but, you know, there has to be, and I get what Katie's saying, but there has to be some way to indicate how people can get help too. It's not just a matter of saying, oh, it's not cool anymore, so I'm not going to do it. I mean, that's kind of the prevention from starting, but, you know, it's tough habit to break once you get into it.
I agree with that, Pat. And I love that you said harm reduction earlier. That makes my heart happy. Because I know a lot of times for kids with vaping, it's it's for prevention, but then once they're using, it's like treatment or nothing. And I think sometimes we have to, that's not a realistic expectation for anybody that has a substance use addiction or disorder. So thank you for bringing that up too.
Anything else?
Laura's added in the chat, invincibility is real. And that's developmentally appropriate for our teenagers.
Yep.
There is that infallibility fantasy that exists in their brains developmentally, because that's just how they're wired. And it is something that we know is part of development, and it's can be like actually a really exciting thing for their brains, where they take more risks than we would and can learn new things. And those risks don't always end up in bad. They can end up in really cool creative experiences and, growth, but then it can also lead to, those bigger challenges that we want to help them kind of understand their own brain and their own pros and cons, and kind of have that information to make informed decisions with, and not just say, don't do it because I said so, but if you do it, here's what could happen. What do you want to do about it?
By the way, it is an intergenerational program. As Katie well knows, I had to deal with somebody vaping on a senior trip. So it's, it's a problem for all generations at this point. And that was of somebody in their 80s. So, it's a problem for all ages. It's not just a youth problem.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything else? I have something. Larry, I hadn't realized you were promoted, so congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Well done.
Yep, there was a thorough application and vetting process, but I did get the opportunity to be principal. So thank you.
Well,
No better
congratulations.
candidate, Larry. We're
Right,
happy
yeah.
for
We
you.
are so happy, Larry. So
appreciate it.
happy.
Thank you.
Good.
It's a busy start to the year, but yep. And actually, yesterday I had an interim dean of students start. John Priority, so he joined us until we find our permanent assistant principal. So,
Okay. Good.
So just an FYI, you'll see a new face as well.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you got it. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything else? No?
One thing, sorry, Ethel, I have one thing to add that I'm hearing from the community again, more for youth, as far as like parents. The transition to school has been rough, but what they're really struggling with is that lack of social skill. The kids, like, they're seeing like a regression in like social skills and how to handle like aggression and like that anxiety piece. So it was something that they brought to me, and I'm like, I can bring it to these guys and see if there's something out there that can help them either connect or understand more, because there's some concerns too from folks that don't necessarily understand what social emotional learning is, and they've expressed like, if I don't know what it is, how can I help my kid? So just didn't know if the YSB had any help with that, or the schools are doing anything of that sort, so that I can bring it back to them as well.
Okay, so we obviously engage in social emotional learning, and maybe that's an area where we can help with our families, at least share some of what's happening in some language around that. There's an intention on my part to do some of that, as we hit milestones and some of that work. So we are engaging in developing school-wide habits of character, and I will get student feedback and parent feedback. So we'll be able to share some aspects of what we're doing.
Good. Excellent. Okay, for next month's meeting's on the 18th rather than the week before. So there is a change, so keep that in mind. It'll be the third Tuesday rather than the second Tuesday of the month. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mary. The second? Okay.
I second it.
Okay, thank you, Laura. All right, everybody, have a good month. And
Thank you, you
all
too.
for coming today.
Hey, Katie, time out.
Yep.
Stay on for just a second.
What? Right, you guys, bye-bye. See you, Deb.
All right, since
think
we are
that-
adjourned, I'm gonna stop the recording, but I will stay on, but that way, whatever we're doing after the meeting isn't part of the meeting.
Okay, thanks.
All right, stop recording.